serious, it's fun, it's your Catholic drive time.
With Joe McClane and Emily
Somebody that
Alcaraz.
really has the highest level information on human trafficking, the scourge of human enslavement on planet Earth today. We're very excited to welcome from deliverfund.org, Nic McKinley. Good morning to you, Nic.
Hey, good morning, Joe.
Praise be to God. Thanks for your time today. I was looking at your website and, up to 150,000 victims held as commercial sex slaves in the U.S. That's a startling number of slaves that are being held right now. And I think it's a topic that I find even in Catholic circles, very few people ever talk about. We're very passionate people about abortion and other crimes against the dignity of the human person. But this is a topic I wish we talked a lot more about. So I'm very excited that you're on today. Former CIA agent, spending your life now combating this evil. Can you just maybe set the stage? What is the state of human trafficking in our world today? Nic McKinley.
Well, thanks, Joe, and thanks for helping to shine a light on this issue. Like you said, it's a terrible scourge that's happening within our society, and we are called to free the slave, and so we need to get about the business of doing that, and that's what we decided to do here at Deliver Fund with our lives. So when we talk about human trafficking, as you mentioned, we just need to get it out in the open that is just a very modern word for slavery. Slaves are not held in the way that they used to be held, right? We tend to think of slavery as people who are chained and being forced to perform labor against their will. Well, we can just remove the chains, and now those chains are psychological. Those chains are familial. Those chains are really fraud, force, coercion, and violence, and that's what we're facing today.
Who are human traffickers? I mean, can you profile these people? Are they a certain kind? Is it all male? Are they a certain age? Are they a certain ethnicity? Are they who are these people?
If we could easily profile them, then the fight would be much easier for law enforcement. Law enforcement or human traffickers do fit certain demographic conditions, primarily where they come from. A lot of human traffickers become human traffickers because they're facing inner city poverty. They're facing a lot of the issues that somebody would say choose to join a gang or choose to join some other type of criminal enterprise. And so many human traffickers are coming out of those impoverished situations, seeing what they regard as being a pimp. Make no mistake, the word pimp is just a fancy word for human trafficker, for slaveholder. But they see that as a way out of inner city poverty, and then that very quickly just becomes what it is that they do. It's not an excuse for enslaving other people, but it is a reason that we need to pay attention to. So these human traffickers think that many of them that we've spoken with think that they're just becoming a pimp, that they're going to participate in pimping and prostitution, and they don't see it as the actual brutal form of slaveholding and control of another person that it actually is.
Speaking of which, why is it that the human trafficking doesn't really get the reputation that it deserves? It's kind of overlooked and it's like a side issue. Why does it not get the attention that I say slavery in America 100 years ago does?
That's a great question. And it all lies right here. It's really the mass adoption of smartphone technologies, right? And the fact that we now have a broadband connected computer in our pocket. When you look at what used to be considered kind of pre-mass adoption of internet technologies, it used to just be considered prostitution. Many people didn't realize that many of those persons who were engaging in prostitution were actually being forced to do that. But everybody knew what side of town you could go to where there was a red light district that you had prostitutes that were walking up and down what they referred to as a track. That was out in the open. We could see it. So the question is, where in your town is that today? chances are that appears to have cleaned up, but it's not. It's just been driven indoors because human traffickers no longer need to advertise those products on the street. They can now advertise them on the internet just like any other business.
Nic McKinley is our guest. He is with DeliverFund. Deliverfund.org is the website. Highly encourage you to check it out. We'll link to it as well on our social feeds. We're talking about the scourge of human trafficking. Now, Nic, former CIA guy, former pararescueman, you've been deployed overseas on probably many occasions. You've seen some action. What made you, did you do this work for, I mean, I don't know what you can and cannot tell me, but did you do human traffic hunting in your work as a federal agent or as a member of the armed services?
No, I tried to. That's actually how I ended up forming DeliverFund. Really, and many people have heard me tell the story publicly. I was actually in Lashkar, Afghanistan. I walked away from a little over 17 years of government service with 30 combat deployments under my belt, which seems like a lot. Wow. 30. That seems like a lot, but that is, I mean, I have friends who are over 50. Some of them are over 60 combat deployments. And we need to keep in mind that this is the longest war in the history of our country. So there are people who joined the military, went to, say, a special operations unit after September 11th, and have been at war every single year since. Well, you don't do that type of work at that level and that type of scale without getting very, very good at it if you're still alive. And so most of the work that I did within, the military and the CIA was all personnel recovery, counter narcotics, and counterterrorism. But we continually bumped into the human trafficking problem. And every time I tried to find an outlet for that, every time I tried to find, somebody who was dealing with human trafficking in the same way we were dealing with the terrorism issue or the narcotics issue, could never find anybody. And that's when we just decided that we couldn't look away and we needed to do something about this.
Every trafficked child is purchased for sex 5.4 times per day. Stat listed on deliverfund.org. Let that sink in. Nic McKinley is our guest. He's the founder of deliverfund.org. Spent 17 years in the service of our country, in the military, as well as the CIA, and now has an organization of human traffic hunters. Praise be to God for their work. And he is our guest, and we're talking about this difficult subject. Thank you for being on our show again, Nic.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it, Joe.
I know the team has a bunch of questions. I kind of want to jump into some more practical stuff. Maybe we can end up there. But one of the questions I want to lead off with real quick is, Nic, can you help me understand who are the customers that would buy a product like this?
If you want a good snapshot of who the customers are for human trafficking victims, go to DeliverFund's website and look at some of our recent press releases. Our analysts just did an operation in Tampa Bay, Florida around WWE, and there were 79 people arrested. Some of those were human traffickers, some of those were customers, and you'll get to see the snapshot of them all. One of the very scary things is that of the 79 customers, one was a wrestling coach, and another was a pastor of a local church. So these are people that these are people in maybe not your immediate circle, but definitely people that you interact with who are acting as customers. And let's make no mistake about this. This is a demand-driven market. In many cases, the economics show that availability will also drive the market, but at the end of the day, you have to have a demand. And so anybody who thinks that they're participating in prostitution and has done so more than 3 times, there's a 100% chance that they have fed money into the human trafficking cycle and they have abused a slave.
Wow.
Now, on your website here, Nic, it says every 2.5 hours, a child is taken by human traffickers. Now, we broadcast out of Houston. When I first moved here, I was shocked at how many Amber Alerts we get for missing children. It's like, especially if you go out into more rural areas, it's like constant. So why are children being taken so easily? Like, who's protecting them or not protecting them?
Well, we need to first discuss what we talk about when we say Taken. This isn't the movie Taken, right? This isn't, children abducted and taken into a black van and taken overseas and sold. And while that does happen, and it's actually very rare. When we say taken, what we mean is a child who's in a very vulnerable situation. That could be for any number of reasons. They could be a runaway. They could have aged out of the foster care system, which means they might be 18 in one day, but let's face it, they're still very much a child. It could just be any type of vulnerable child is going to be preyed upon by human traffickers. This is their business. It's what they do. They're very good at it. They're usually mentored by somebody who's also done it for a long time, and they know how to manipulate children, specifically teenage girls. And then we have the whole gender identity crisis that's going on right now. That leads to a lot of vulnerability amongst younger boys.
Nic McKinley is our guest. Deliverfund.org is his website, and we're talking about the human trafficking scourge of enslavement of peoples on our planet today and what we should be doing about it. I would like you to address, as a parent, I got 6 kids, 2 grandkids, and the very thought that someone could take one of my kids makes my heart skip a beat. What as parents, what should we know? What do we need to know about all of this that might help protect our friends, our family, and even our own kids?
We need to educate our children as to what human trafficking is, right? So if we go back and we look at the war on drugs in the 1980s, nobody really knew what was going on with narcotics. The government came out with a bunch of PSAs. The next thing you know, we're telling our kids and educating them about, just saying no if somebody offers them drugs. It's the same thing with human trafficking and the human trafficking cycle. We need to educate our children as to what it is. We actually put forward a YouTube series on Deliverfund's YouTube channel, which is called Hunting with the Huntress. And one of our senior targeting analysts, Kara Smith, will walk parents through the social media of these human traffickers and tell you why they're doing what they're doing and how they're doing it. So in many ways we say, well, we want to protect our children, but we can't be with our children all the time. And human traffickers are not going to snatch them out of a grocery store. Again, it's not that never happens. It does happen, and our heart breaks for the parents who have to experience that. But most human trafficking is an older guy meets, slightly older guy meets a slightly younger girl online, starts talking to her, starts manipulating her, starts driving a wedge between her and her parents and her friends and her support network, convinces her to run away with him. He's actually a scout for a human trafficker. He's doing this to 5 or 6 other girls simultaneously, gets that girl in front of that human trafficker. There is a period that they call the seasoning period. We won't get into the details of what they do, but it's incredibly brutal, and it just breaks their will and makes them reliant on narcotics and the trafficker for their very survival. And so what we need to do, what we fight at Deliverfund, is the actual human trafficker. And it's important to understand that you cannot have a human trafficking victim if you do not have a human trafficker. So we target the human trafficker. The church is really trying to target the demand side by changing the hearts of men. We need to, as parents, address really what is the supply side of this economic chain, which is educating our children as to what human trafficking is, how human traffickers will manipulate them, and more importantly, and this is key, if you have a teenage girl, you probably know you don't know as much about her life as, say, her friends do. And that's actually the key, is because friends will pay attention to what's happening with their friends. And so by educating your daughter about what's happening with human trafficking, you very well may help her save one of her friends' life and vice versa.
Wow.
Now, as a woman, we constantly get these on social media. You'll see like, oh, if you see like a paper on your windshield, or if you see this on your car, just get in and lock the doors right away. Like constantly, there's all these like creative things that people say human traffickers do. Would you say that's realistic? Do women really just get taken outside of Targets for trying to unstick something from their car?
No, and because God provided me with the platform, I'm going to use it. All those conspiracy theories, the QAnon, people are eating children in their basement. What was the other one? It was a furniture company that was selling children in cabinetry online. The water bottle on the car, the piece of paper on the car, absolute and complete conspiracy theories that are just not true. Human traffickers don't have to go to those lengths to get victims for them to manipulate. There are plenty of vulnerable people in the world. And we want you to think about it this way. Every single teenage girl is potentially vulnerable to becoming a human trafficking victim. Same thing with younger boys. However, once you start adding lack of a positive male role model, lower socioeconomic status, lack of opportunity. We're in the middle of COVID, so we've taken away the only structure that a lot of these kids have within school, and we've given them a laptop and free broadband internet access. What that has done is actually increase the human trafficking problem, because these human traffickers primarily target, runaways at bus stops, kids who age out of the foster care system, and vulnerable people. They know how to find them. They do not need to abduct victims out of the parking lot of a grocery store.
Wow. We only have about 2.5 minutes left with Nic McKinley from deliverfund.org. Nic, I want to ask you real quick about the tools that traffickers use to find and groom their victims. And I understand video games are a big component in that. Can you speak to that?
Yes, video games are a big component, specifically with the chat feature. So if you've got kids that are using, that are playing video games online and they're connected to the internet, and I'm talking gaming console boxes, not just on computers, the chat feature, you either need to monitor it as a parent or disable it, because that is exactly how human traffickers will get into your home and start speaking to your children. And it's happening in ways that you don't even, obviously that you don't understand. And they think they're talking to a friend who's the same age in some other state, but it's really a human trafficker. And you can actually go to our Deliver Fund website at deliverfund.org, go into the media page, and you'll actually find a case of a 12-year-old boy who was groomed to be a trafficking victim over a period of months through a gaming console. And he was actually abducted outside of his house willingly, but taken then to another state. And law enforcement was able to recover him, luckily.
Wow. Pretty insane. How do you, I assume you operate off of donations. I mean, how do you fund your organization that helps to fight human traffickers?
Right now, we are exclusively funded by the people, by the church, if you will. And so, yes, donations are what we're highly, highly reliant upon. And for people who really want to get involved in the fight against human trafficking, our analysts are, most of them are former law enforcement, former CIA, former NSA, former Navy SEALs with human intelligence backgrounds. This is the work that they do full time, and they need your support in order to be able to do it. We can't do this by ourselves without the support of the public.
All right. Well, my dear listener, please consider making a contribution to the cause to fight human traffickers. Deliverfund.org is the website. Nic McKinley, thank you for your time, and thank you for your service to our country, and thank you for your service to our people.
Thank you, Joe.
God love you. God bless you, Nic. Have a great day. And that's going to do it for hour number 1 of Catholic Drive Time. We will post this conversation later today on our YouTube channel and our social feeds. Please do us a favor. Share that with your friends and your family. Let's help to educate and inform. But in the next hour, if you can join us, we have a lot more Catholic Drive Time coming up. Go to grnonline.com/CDT to get the links to join us if you can. If not, God love you. God bless you. We'll see you back here 6 a.m. Central, 7 Eastern for another round of Catholic Drive Time. God bless. God love you.
Thank you for joining us on Your Catholic Drive Time, where it is our pleasure to keep you informed and inspired.
Join us Monday through Friday at the same time, right here on your favorite Catholic radio station.
Don't forget to connect with us. Just go to facebook.com/Catholic Drive Time.
Again, that's facebook.com/Catholic Drive Time.
Be sure to share more than just us today. Share Jesus with everyone you meet.
Bye now.